Money Talk.
This is Akashvani. In the program Money Talk, now we bring you a discussion on India-UK Free Trade Agreement, Enhancing Export Potential. The participants are Shubhomoy Bhattacharjee, Economic Analyst, and Rajesh Laikh, Anchor.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for an in-depth conversation on the India-UK Free Trade Agreement in our program Money Talk. Today, we are honored to have with us Shubhomoy Bhattacharjee, an economic analyst who brings extensive insight into international trade and India's economic landscape. Focus is on how the India-UK FTA stands to benefit specific Indian states, which sectors are poised for transformation, and what this agreement signals for the future of bilateral trade. So, Shubhomoy, what are the most significant features of the recently signed India-UK Free Trade Agreement? And from a policy perspective, what motivated both India and the UK to pursue this comprehensive pact at this juncture?
Well, the conditions that have happened since the WTO is that there is no overarching global method for conducting trade now. Major countries today are working on agreements which are bilateral. And India naturally was finding itself hamstrung because it did not have bilateral treaty with major trading zones. So neither with EU, nor with the UK, and nor with the USA. It is with that context that India therefore got into the business of working out a free trade agreement with the UK. If you look at it from UK's side, UK also was very hamstrung because having come out of the European Union, UK did not have a strong, powerful position in the global trade to negotiate from. So therefore, the offer from India to do an FTA was therefore very welcome for the UK. So that is the context in which both the countries worked. It was because these countries were interested that also led to the successful conclusion of the talks and the signing of the agreement. The big thing is, what does the India-EU FTA bring to the table for both the countries? Well, for India, the substantial achievement is that for India's manufacturing sector, which had been stymied by high tariff and non-tariff barriers in lots of European countries, including the UK, that barrier has gone. So for the Indian manufacturers, a very significant place or scope for expansion of their products, of their abilities has come into play. This was not there with, say, South Asian countries and others with which India had FTA, because those countries did not have the markets which could absorb the scale at which India can produce. So therefore, this is very substantial.
So when it comes to the sectors and regions that get benefited, what kind of impact will we see on Maharashtra's engineering goods, pharmaceuticals and apparel exports?
That's interesting because, as we were saying right now, that it is India's manufacturing sector which stands to benefit a lot from the FTA. And as you know very well, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu are the states where India's manufacturing powerhouses are located. So, as you said, engineering, yes, that's true. Maharashtra's engineering companies are led by either in the Pune-Kirki belt, Aurangabad belt, where we have got both automotive products as well as the lots of associated products coming out of very high standards. All of them stand to significantly benefit from the India-EU FTA. Because automobiles is one sector where there's going to be a lot of traction through this agreement. Yes, Rajesh.
Coming to Gujarat, pharmaceutical, chemicals and marine products industries, how will they benefit?
For these companies, what happens is that the production quality was always of a high order. What was getting hurt was the fact that when India was trading with its, as I said, with Asian countries and others, which will still continue, but the market size that was available was not substantial. By going into UK, each of these companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the chemicals companies, the petrochemical companies, they get a chance to access the European market and obviously the American markets. And those form a very considerable scope for expansion for these companies. In fact, these companies had always been very, very keen to expand towards the West. And therefore, the India-UK FTA comes at a very right moment for them.
Okay, let's hear from our correspondent Aparna Khund on how Gujarat's pharma sector will benefit from FTA.
Gujarat contributes to 30% of country's total exports, so it is set to gain big from India-UK free trade agreement. With tariff barriers coming down, Gujarat's pharmaceutical and chemical industries will get a major export boost. Apart from this, engineering goods from Rajkot and marine exports from Veeraval and the whole coastline will also now find smoother routes to UK, giving Gujarat's businesses a competitive edge. We talked to the Joint Director General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, Dr. Rahul Singh, regarding the benefits of this agreement to Gujarat.
India-UK Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement is the most comprehensive agreement that India has negotiated with a developed economy. UK is one of our biggest trading partners. UK has provided zero duty access to more than 99% tariff lines. Sectors like textile, agriculture, marine, exports, gems and jewelry, chemicals, pharmaceuticals and engineering goods will be greatly benefited. These are the strengths of Gujarat exports. Gujarat already has advantage in these sectors, and with zero duty access to UK market, exports of these sectors is poised to grow comprehensively next 2-3 years.
Along with the new big players, MSMEs across the state will also be benefited from simplified UK market access, opening doors to innovation, jobs and global opportunities. So overall, we can see wide opportunities for Gujarat's entrepreneurs, exporters with this agreement.
Shubhomoy, let's move forward. What changes can we expect for Tamil Nadu's textiles, leather and engineering goods sectors?
As you know, Tamil Nadu's production capacity is formidable in all the sectors that you talked about. Also, Tamil Nadu, just like Gujarat, has very deep ports and its linkages with the rest of the world is significant. Tamil Nadu also is one of the states in India where we have been successfully able to run the special economic zones. And all of these, like the leather exports, the textile exports, all sourced from these special economic zones. So it's not surprising if you go to Tamil Nadu to see how these companies have been expanding their role and expanding in a very substantial way. And when we look at the global diversification that's happening as a China plus one strategy, India stands at a very, what I should say, not only advantageous, but also in a very significantly comfortable position as far as the cost of transportation is concerned. So from India to the hubs, both in the Middle East as well as in Europe and UK, of course, there is considerable less transportation cost, and that makes for a substantial advantage. Tamil Nadu obviously is in a very, very significantly good position to take advantage of all of these and to push its deepen its industrial capacity.
What are the anticipated effects on the coastal states like Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and Kerala, especially concerning their marine and seafood exports?
India produces and exports a lot of seafood from these states. What has happened is, with the deepening of the Indian ports, which is going along simultaneously, we are at a position to take advantage of these negotiations. What it also does is that states like, say, Andhra or Orissa, Kerala, have the capacity to do lots of value-added production from these seafood products. So that becomes very, very useful strategic advantage. And as you know, the India-UK FTA has a very interesting clause. And that clause says that there will be no raising of tariff barriers by UK if imports from India surge. A lot of FTAs have this clause that if imports surge, then the countries are free to move in with tariff barriers or others to try to protect the domestic industry. UK has decided to forego that advantage. And for very good reason, because UK doesn't have any comparative advantage in any of these products. And these products can be produced by India at a very cheap cost and fulfill the needs of the UK market, bringing down inflation there, giving consumers there a very significant advantage, which they would not have got otherwise.
Henry, correspondent from Vijayawada, now joins us and tells us how fisheries business will benefit from this trade agreement.
The India-UK Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement marks a major turnaround pact as it eliminates tariffs on 99% of India's exports, including basmati rice, millet, spices, cotton and marine products, while safeguarding sensitive sectors like dairy and vegetables. The AP Chamber's president pointed out that Andhra Pradesh is a major exporter of seafood.
This is a landmark agreement signed by both the countries. If you see, the Andhra Pradesh is basically driven by various sectors like textiles, aqua, food processing, agricultural commodities, leather, pharma. These are all the major, some machinery like foundries and all that. So this agreement really give a big fillip to the local industries. Especially if you see the aqua, although we are the top exporters of the country, around 20,000 crore worth of seafood is exported. Our market share with UK is very, very limited and negligible. So if you see, UK has a 5.4 billion marine market. So out of that, we get now an opportunity to capture major portion of that.
The UK is the sixth largest economy in the world, and India will have more access to a large market which is untapped right now. The free trade agreement will boost bilateral investment and generate new employment opportunities in both countries.
Shubhomoy, how do the provisions support MSMEs or small exporters across these states, and what new opportunities will emerge for these businesses?
It is a great learning capacity that comes along for our MSMEs because, many of our MSMEs, even though they contribute almost 30% or even more to our entire export basket, are circumscribed by lots of circumstances. And one of the things that happens is that the credit lines, the working capital and others remain crimped because of several factors. One would expect that as trade expands, as any student of economics would acknowledge, that creates an opportunity for MSME sector companies to take advantage of the global market without being restricted by the constraints of domestic production. So both in terms of accessing capital as well as in terms of accessing know-how, they are in a considerably good position.
Okay.
Yes, Rajesh.
This agreement is being hailed as signaling a new era in India-UK economic relations. What structural or policy shifts make this deal especially transformative for bilateral and even global trade?
After all, India is now the fourth largest economy in the world and the UK is the fifth largest. So when two economies of this size decide to get close through an FTA, which means essentially they're integrating the economic power of their economies, that is a huge advantage which we shall only just be seeing the beginning now. The potential, as we just discussed, are massive. The advantages will, in fact, start accruing very fast, and it is up to the different sectors of the economy, the entrepreneurs, to take advantage of these possibilities. One of the things that happens is that now, since India has a free trade agreement with UK, it is in a much better position to be able to negotiate an advantageous FTA agreement with EU and also on to the biggest one of them all, which is the agreement with USA. So that actually covers a large part of the global trading network and, brings India and these countries in a very close handshake. And that is a very significant advantage that accrues to all of these economies.
Okay. Shubhomoy, that brings us to the end of our discussion. Thank you for your clear and comprehensive insights into the India-UK FTA and its state-wise implication. Thank you for being with Akashvani.
Thank you.
You are listening to a discussion on India-UK Free Trade Agreement, Enhancing Export Potential. The participants were Shubhomoy Bhattacharjee, Economic Analyst, and Rajesh Laikh, Anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official.
Money Talk